Sci-Fi is known for a lot of things, insane value, oversaturation, a lot of releases when it comes to IEMs, and of course, you can't forget about the waifus. But it also has a reputation when it comes to poor quality control and just, very sketchy business practices, especially this year for whatever reason. So today we're going to talk about some of the worst IEMs, or just some of like the worst flops that were released this year. And at number 5, you guys voted for the Moondrop, Starfield 2, and the Stellaris. Now, in terms of overall packaging, the cable and the case on both of them are actually very nice. Accessory wise, they're very competitive actually, if not price leading. But the issue is that the tuning was just way too bright on both of them, especially on the Stellaris, which was pretty much unlistenable, not as bad as the PR3, which we'll talk about later, but still, it'll definitely, ring your ears for sure. Same with the Starfield 2, not enough bass and gets shouty very easily. Both were just very poorly tuned. I guess you can call it, they're very sharp and resolving, but at that point, it's hard to enjoy the music, which, is what they're designed for and what you're in this hobby for in the first place. At number 4, you guys voted for the KZ Krilla and PR3. Now, the Krilla was hyped to the moon as a $1,000 endgame killer from KZ, priced at $16. Now, I don't know how many of you actually believe that a $16 IEM was going to, outcompete a Monarch. I get it, it's sci-fi, but the better question would be why any company would do this, because it's going to hurt their business a lot, or, how this would be even possible to begin with, without going bankrupt. Surprise, surprise, KZ got our hopes up because it was far from being an endgame Krilla. Like, it's not horrible, it competes well with other $20 IEMs, and the tuning options are, very nice. You get a lot of variety for what you paid for, and overall the sound was fine for the most part, another Harman diffuse field, but they did stuff a BA in the nozzle. On top of that, the blending of the DD and the BA was very poorly done. There's a lot of BA timbre and just not very coherent. You can tell when the music goes from DD to a BA. So, I guess it's your typical KZ sound. If it wasn't for the massively overdone, hype campaign, the Krilla it would have been fine. It's not as natural as the EW100 or the Wanars, but again, no one's claiming it has endgame tonality or performance, right? And then we have the new PR3 from KZ, which is just, shout city, way too much treble, very, very sharp. Unless you have hearing loss or listen at like, super low volumes, like 3 volume bar, don't go near it. It's even brighter than the Stellaris, which is just a feat in itself. So very poorly tuned, might just end your ears and your audiophile journey. So just avoid it at all costs. At number 3, you guys voted for the Moondrop Araya 2. Now, the Araya 2 wasn't overhyped like the KZs or necessarily badly tuned. It sounds fine, it's another Harman diffuse field, but just like upgraded with a slightly better driver. But it's definitely not worth $89 of driver. At $89, that's Hexa money. That's EA 500 money. That's EM6L on sale money. I think that's the part where people had issues with. They feel like they were just getting a poor deal because the EW200 at $40 sounds very similar, pretty much using the same driver aside from a slightly different diaphragm, which honestly does not do anything. And this new ventilation system Moondrop is trying to market also doesn't do much. Moondrop isn't bringing, soft ear Twilight levels of ventilation technology or like driver quality here, so you're not going to notice a difference if the bass driver is relatively the same. In fact, it's so close that it actually comes down to unit variance and quality control. For example, I had 2 EW200s. The first one had a lot of bass, and the second one had less bass and a little more air. The less bass one sounds basically the same as the Araya 2. I literally sat there like a maniac A-Bing the same song for over an hour, same volume, same cable, same tips, and they basically sound the same. Now, knowing Moondrop's history of poor QC and channel imbalances, you can be fairly sure that you might get units that are gonna have too much bass or rolled off treble, or like just maybe you won't even get to listen to your Arayas because your 2-pin is broken. Anything can happen. Just look what happened to the Darksaber. So at that point, it's literally just down to quality control and whether or not you luck out on getting a good unit from SimGod or Moondrop. And if I'm rolling for QC to determine my sound quality, then at that point, I might as well just scrap the one that costs 2 times cheaper. The cable and the case is nice. It's definitely better, but I'm here to listen to the music. The cable and case doesn't make a difference when it comes to functionality, you know, aside from the aesthetics. Ironically enough, you won't even be able to see the cable or the case, you know, or the aesthetics for the vast majority of your use case. For example, I'm just going to be staring at my screen or, you know, working on something else, and if the cable brings no functional value, aka, you know, it sounds the same, and I'm not looking at it, you know, because that's what it does, it's aesthetics, right? Then why waste money on the accessories when Moondrop, you know, could better use that money to put in a better driver, or, you know, competitively price the IEM. Which, by the way, the LM version of the EA500, which stands for lithium magnesium, which is the driver that it's gonna come out with, it's gonna come out soon. And the pre-release version just like straight up dunks on all over the Ariya 2 in terms of sound quality, better bass texture, high resolution, better imaging and staging, at most likely a very similar price. Unless you like the aesthetics and the packaging and, you know, you just want like a good overall package, you know, then sure, go for it. It's your money. But sound wise, you know, if you're only looking for sound, the Ariya 2 is not a good value. The pricing basically killed its own legacy of being like a market breaker when the original Ariya first came out. But moving on, at number 2, we have Moondrop again, but this time it's their new flagship, the Dark Saber. Now, many of you already know the whole shit show with the whole QC on release shenanigan, you know, the plates cracking, 2-pin breaking, not willing to refund under warranty. But the worst part is that this isn't even like a $100 or $20 set, and it's not from a small sci-fi company either, right? This is from Moondrop, and the Dark Saber is $800 USD. It boggles my mind how the QC is still this bad at quote-unquote, I guess, endgame levels. I would also, you know, throw in the Elysian Diva in here as well because of that horrible channel imbalance and quality control and just like customer service in general. Also happened with my Gaia, horrible channel imbalance. Yeah, these companies really need to get their shit together when it comes to quality control, especially at very expensive prices. I also want to address the Night Oblivion boot tester as well. I'm not sure where it ranks, so maybe you guys can help me out. Vote in the comments, I don't know. But TLDR, the creator came over to Hi-Fi Guys to try and sell his, you know, his knob after not wanting to pay for advertising fees over at HeadFi, which, you know, is a red flag already, because if you're going to advertise your product as a small business, you need to pay the ads or the fees for that platform, right? He did a lot of over-promising, you know, flowery language and just hyping up the boot tester as a replacement to the kilobuck IEMs, you know, promising top-of-the-line performance at a fraction of the price, at affordable pricing. You know, I don't think $600 is necessarily affordable, but basically misleading people to believe it was built from the ground up, built from scratch, and that it wasn't just, you know, like a retune or a reshell from another component or another IEM. Well, I guess unsurprisingly, it was. Some user found out he was lying and reusing components from another IEM called the Forget Night Audio W10. And on top of this, Chris, or Good Guy Bad Audio Reviews, had a unit with a cracked plating and he was trying to get it replaced, but was pretty much ignored for like 2 to 3 months. But the cherry on top was that the sound itself was definitely not kilobuck levels. It had a lot of BA timbre, very sharp and shouty in the vocals, with masking on top, not nearly as refined and smooth like the Supernova, which is also an all BA set, and in general, like barely competitive at even $600 versus the top and some of the other stuff there. The tuning itself wasn't horrible, you know, it was clean and had pretty solid technical performance, but it's just that the lying, the manipulation, and then trying to push cables on top of everything really sealed the deal for AS, you know, American Spirit, or what I like to call him, Mr. Ass. But as bad as that sound, it's not even as bad as the #1 spot. You guys already know what it is. You guys voted for this. There's like tons of it in the comments. It's the KZ PR2. I think the KZ PR2 single-handedly stopped me from reviewing any other KZ products. Like, that's just how bad the whole ordeal was. Basically, if you didn't know what happened, the first batch of the PR2 was decent, you know, bright leaning, but overall, you know, still a very solid performer at its price of around like $45 or something. However, KZ decided to secretly retune the later batches and added on just like a crap ton of treble, like pretty much the same amount of treble as the PR3, so pretty much unlistenable. Imagine the horrible tuning from the PR3, but also lying to your customers and misleading them into thinking they're getting the original PR2 sound, but really they're getting a drill to the ear. I'm pretty sure Chris just like dropped all contact with KZ after that collab. Many reviewers, myself included, went back to warn their audience about the changes after the initial review with the first batch. All in all, just very shady business behavior and like just a very dumb business move. Like, KZ, you just ruined your entire image and your trust with your customers. Congrats. I don't know. I don't know what your game plan was there. But based off of community votes, it's literally just Moondrop and KZ this year. Although number one still goes to KZ in my opinion, because they're just like sketchy as a company in general. And Moondrop, they're just getting lazy with their QC and their releases. At least they're not maliciously, retuning their IEM secretly or something like that. But yeah, I hope this was a fun video to watch. Again, happy holidays, and I'll see everyone in the next one.